If you want to shelter assets when you die or even before you die, it's really important that you start early. So I'll talk to you about that, and then I'll kind of get into the actual tools that you can use. Basically, you start with your estate planning documents. It may mean that you create a will that goes into a creditor protected trust so that if you do just die, we've got that set up and ready to hold assets. If you're feeling pretty good and we've got some time before we have long-term care needs, we might do some asset preservation planning. That planning could include actually gifting stuff out of your estate. If you do that, we've got to reconcile with the IRS about whether we're going over our $14,000 limit, which is pretty normal and not a big deal. But more importantly, if we're going out of our estate and we're going to be using Medicaid as our long-term care policy or a long-term care plan, we're going to have to be very careful about that 5 years. Getting it out of your estate means giving it maybe to your kids. The longer the kids hold on to it, the more liability, the more susceptible the asset is to being hurt, because your kids can have bankruptcies, divorces, car wrecks, things that can actually negatively impact what you gifted them. So if it's a short amount of time, they're very responsible. We like their spouses, kids get along, that kind of stuff. Kids are a great idea. Otherwise, if not, if they're going to hold it for a longer period of time and we don't actually want it in the kids' hands, because it also might affect their ability to get a loan or financial aid. So we don't want it in their hands just yet. We can put it into a trust, maybe like a steel bucket trust, like an irrevocable trust to hold those assets. So it's not subject to your creditors or to their creditors. If we're going with Medicaid as well, there are assets that you're allowed to keep and Medicaid can't touch them, especially if you plan correctly in a right amount of time and we transfer things appropriately. If they're not protected assets, not exempted assets, we're going to spend some time in this category here, the asset preservation planning section, to get those assets moved over here and then kind of bubble wrapped and protected so that by the time our 5 years is over and if and when we need long-term care, we're ready for it.